I'm Anita Goa, the host of Let's Goa. Today I'm sitting down and interviewing Derek Beres, who is an amazing yoga teacher here in New York City, but he's also an amazing DJ and writer. So I am so excited to sit down and talk to him about yoga and teaching, music, DJing, and writing. We got so much to talk about. So I hope you enjoy the show. Please let me know how much you like it and your thoughts about it. I love to hear from you. Until next time, namaste.
Earthrise Yoga came about more the idea of branding something that I can call my own. Earthrise Sound System, which is my music project with David, and then Earthrise Yoga, which is my movement practice. So everything falls under that banner. The Earthrise, which is the most famous photograph ever taken, which is when the astronauts first landed on the moon, they took a photo of Earth coming over the horizon. And Joseph Campbell had felt that mythologically that represented the knowledge that humans are not the center of the universe, that we're a part of the process of the universe becoming itself. And so there is a very sort of real and tangible representation in that picture of that concept. So I thought that was such a beautiful idea to convey that, you know, we're part of this process. Yoga is the practice of self-realization. It's the turning about of the senses to look inside of yourself and see what's going on, and you know, how your internal processes relate to the process of nature, and how the processes of nature are embodied inside of you and you're bringing them out. And so what you find in there, sometimes you may not always agree with or like, but by actually looking at it instead of avoiding it, you can learn a lot more, and you can become a lot more open-minded than always being stuck by your what we call samskaras, or your sort of psychic imprints, your habits, your patternings. Yoga is the process of just always questioning your patternings and seeing that, is that really the best thing for you to be doing? Or are there other possibilities for you to explore about yourself internally and about how you move about the world? I constantly reflect back on the Eightfold Path, you know, the Ashtanga limbs and the different concepts that yoga bring up, and I try my best to follow them. If I don't sometimes, I just notice it and observe it for the next time. I try not to grasp it too much if I mess up. You know, sometimes some things happen and you just got to say, okay, just put that in your pocket for next time, and we'll bring it back again when you're confronted. Just as a journalist, a music journalist, I had so much music that I wanted to share with the world, and reading about music on a page and hearing it live are two different things. And while I still love reading about it, it's the experience, because being in a dance club is our modern ritual for youth culture. It's so much more relevant for so many more people than churches are, and different forms of religious gathering. This is where people of any color and race and creed can gather together and explore themselves in the dance. That's a very old tradition, and that's a very important thing for people to recognize. So to be able to be behind that and just move people and take people through African music and Latin music and Balkan music, and have everyone dance together is such a beautiful thing. My yoga sequences are defined in a lot of ways by the music that I play, and the people that study yoga in America are usually more open-minded in a lot of ways, so letting them hear different forms of world music just gives them more entry points to understanding cultures, and I think that's very important. I think it's important that people hear Palestinian music and they hear Middle Eastern music, and so I bring it out in my classes so people, they don't constantly get bombarded by what CNN tells them, which is important too, but that's the politicians, that's not the people, that's not the soul of a culture. If you want to get into the soul of a culture, you listen to the music, so I'm just trying to give them ways to explore that. I don't physically play anything, but my music partner, David Schomer, does, and he does it very well. And so we were just been friends for a while, and we did a remix for Deborah Pramal about 1.5 years ago, and we just did so well on that we decided to make a CD that kind of is the companion to my class, so it moves how my class moves. And we got about 20 different musicians, friends of ours, involved in the process, and we made the record, and we have a record label that goes along with it. So I think that offering people a very strong sequence that takes things like rhythm into consideration, and it's not yoga music, but it's music that is made for a class, a modern 2010 class, is what we try to accomplish with it. I'm always refining things according to my own capabilities. I think for myself that the poses that I don't like the most, that aren't going to injure me, are the most important. So I work on my back bending more than I work on my forward bending or hip opening, because that's the best thing for me. Always doing things that are comfortable are not going to necessarily serve me in the long run, because that's a habit that is easy to fall back into. Because of my own physical background and injuries that I've sustained, back bending is very challenging for me. Forward bending is very easy for me. One-legged balancing poses are tough, and some I can't do anymore because of my injury. But just holding different balancing poses is always a challenge. So I really enjoy them, because you know after you've completed the sequence that you've grown from it. So it's all about that balance between finding, you know, what is physically going to hurt me and I should hold off on, and what am I just avoiding because I don't want to do it. But I think that exploring the ones that bring about the dark side in you is important, because then you can bring it to light. Arm balances are my favorite things to do. The sense of refinement and grace that you start to learn from them after time is beautiful. So I spend a lot of my time in flight between the different arm balances. My practice will always be defined more getting on the subways every day. So that's where my practice happens, when you're on a crowded subway train during rush hour and you're just fighting for space. That's going to be a lot more important to define your practice by than if you can do a split pose or a handstand. Feel that it's very important to know what's going on in our world in food issues. As a journalist, I write about food issues quite a bit. I've been a vegetarian fully for a little over a year. I have not eaten meat for 13 years, but I have eaten fish up until about a little over a year ago. Well, I don't necessarily think that the world has to be vegetarian, because I've been to a lot of countries where that isn't feasible, and economically and culturally that would make no sense, because what you put in your body, whether it's philosophically, whether it's culturally, musically, or literally with the food you eat, that's what you're living, that's what you become. You take on those qualities and then you pass them out. And if you're taking toxic things into your body, you're putting out toxic things without even realizing it. So today, vegetarianism and these food issues are the one thing that are really defining our culture in so many ways. And we really need to reflect on that and see what can we do to raise the levels of compassion. It's going to be very important for the future. They're each rites of passage. They mark different points in my life. I got a small one here, which means courage. And then eventually, for balance, I got Tao, because Taoism was important to me. And I love cats. Buddha eyes are meditation tools that I can always remind myself that, oh yeah, it's the soft gaze, the drishti, that to reflect and look back upon, that's important. One on my back is the kind of the big one, which is Shiva, in dancer's pose, so Nataraj. He's wrapped in flames all the way through, and the flames come over across, because the yoga is all about bringing up the pranic fire, and into Ganesh, who is his son, which sits on my chest. So it's the story of yoga. It's the creation, destruction, and the birth, all within physically, symbolically represented in my body. I cannot condense describing me to 2 words. I can to 3. Words, beats, postures. That's what I do.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Let's Goa. Until the next episode, make sure that you find your own flow and flow with it. Namaste.